Before declaring the building open, the commissioning underscores the administration's commitment to institutional reform and improved revenue administration. Vice President Kashif Shettima has called for a deliberate and forward-looking framework for youth leadership development, noting that it is the backbone of sustainable progress. He particularly warned that the country's status as one of the world's youngest nations would count for nothing without deliberate institutional investment to match its demographic scale. Speaking at the Abuja Dialogue 2026, the Vice President said treated as a rhetorical point in public discourse, but as a strategic reality requiring policy attention at the highest levels of governance. Shettima stressed that the future of Nigeria would depend not only on the abundance of its natural resources or the ambition of government programs, but on the systems built to sustain leadership continuity and national development. A major political storm is brewing within the Labour Party as the Forum of duly elected state chairman has written a strongly worded open letter to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, over what he describes as attempts to recognize fresh state congresses of the party. In the communique dated February 14, 2026 and addressed to the INEC chairman in Abuja, the group insisted that it emerged from duly conducted INEC-monitored state congresses held nationwide on December 6, 2025. Aniete Patrick has details.
The 36th state chairman of the Labour Party, Nigeria, represented by the Secretary Forum of Elected States Chairman and NEC members, Abdurrahim Chindo, alleged that there are moves to recognize a parallel set of congresses being promoted by a faction within the party, warning that such action would amount to what they call institutional sabotage and a violation of the Electoral Act 2022. They maintained that ward, local governments and state congresses were properly conducted on December 2nd, 4th and 6th respectively, with statutory notice issued to INEC and full monitoring carried out by the Commission.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, may be under pressure or is being influenced to monitor or recognize a fresh round of so-called state congresses by a faction of the party that has no legal or constitutional foundation. Let it be clear, this is not politics. This is an attempted institutional sabotage.
According to the chairman, that position remains valid and unchallenged, arguing that no legal basis exists for any fresh congresses while the earlier ones remain in force. They warn that any attempt to recognize parallel congresses could create duplication of leadership, destabilize party structures, and undermine public confidence in INEC regulatory role. The group further argues that only a court of competent jurisdiction can nullify congresses already conducted and monitored by the electoral body.
Let me just also add and correct an insinuation that the present issue or problems that we have in the party is attributed to the incumbent government or the ruling party. That is not true. The problems that we are having in the party is what I will see as man's inhumanity to man.
What the NBA has said with regards to judges and lawyers. We hope INEC will not fall into that trap.
They also cautioned that the matter is currently before the Court of Appeal, urging all parties to maintain the status quo and avoid actions that could prejudice the case. INEC has yet to respond to the latest letter. Aniete Patrick, Global TV News.
The political climate ahead of 2027 is heating up as lawmakers from the African Democratic Congress, ADC, in the House of Representatives now demand the prosecution and removal of the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, over allegations of bias. At a press briefing in Abuja, caucus spokesperson Afam Ogene accused the commission's chairman, Josh Amukbito, of partisanship and inconsistencies capable of undermining credible elections in 2027. Again, here is the report by Aniete Patrick.
Lawmakers also accuse INEC of interfering in the internal affairs of the African Democratic Congress by recognizing the disputed leadership faction. Ogene insisted that the electoral umpire no longer commands the neutrality required to oversee a free and fair process. The lawmakers pointed to alleged partisan social media activity linked to the chairman, raising concerns over transparency and accountability. They say conflicting claims surrounding the accounts have further eroded public trust in INEC at a critical time.
The caucus is gravely concerned about the ostensibly undemocratic actions taken by INEC under the leadership of Professor Amphipan, which appears to deny the ADC the opportunity to participate in the forthcoming elections. This is being achieved through the perpetuation of a leadership crisis within the party, whereby INEC has abdicated its responsibility as an impartial arbiter and instead intervened in our party's internal affairs. Specifically, the Commission seems to be recognizing an illegitimate leadership faction.
The caucus also accused INEC of meddling in the internal affairs of the party. They described the move as a deliberate attempt to weaken the party ahead of future elections. The lawmakers further alleged collusion between some INEC officials and the judiciary in an ongoing legal dispute, announcing plans to petition the National Judicial Council over what they call judicial compromise.
We note that the Commission, in collusion with certain elements within the judiciary, is actively working to undermine the aspirations of the ADC, thereby seeking to prevent the party from fielding candidates in the forthcoming elections through duplicitous means that serve to obstruct inclusivity within the democratic process. In fact, credible information at our disposal suggests that certain individuals within the judiciary and INEC.
They are now calling on Nigerians and key institutions to rise in defense of democracy and restore confidence in both the electoral and judicial systems. From the National Assembly, Anieti Patrick, Global TV News.
Let's talk some more politics now. The David Mark-led African Democratic Congress, ADC, has commenced its national convention in Abuja, marking a significant moment for the party as it seeks to consolidate its structures and reposition itself ahead of future political contest. Party delegates, leaders, and stakeholders from across the country have gathered in the Federal Capital Territory for the convention, which is expected to address key issues, including internal reforms, party unity, and strategic direction. The event also serves as a platform for reviewing the party's performance and set the priorities for the coming years. Our political correspondent, Subango Soro, is live on the ground for us there, and we'll keep an eye out for you regarding those developments. Let's now turn to other stories for you. The minority whip of the House of Representatives, Ali Issa, has resigned from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, citing internal crisis and alleged undemocratic practices within the party. In a resignation letter addressed to the chairman of Balanga local government area of Gombe State, Issa said his decision takes immediate effect. He also said his exit was compelled by the way and manner some undemocratic forces have hijacked the party for reasons that are contrary to the founding principles and philosophy of the party, which created a factional leadership. Hundreds of youths in Ayetoro Bede, a Jumu local government area of Kogi State, have taken to the streets protesting what they have described as political persecution targeting the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Josh Amopiton. The protesters expressed strong support for the electoral body's independence. Carrying placards and chanting solidarity songs, the demonstrators marched through major streets, insisting that recent social media claims against Amopiton are part of a coordinated attempt to discredit Nigeria's electoral system. Youth leaders have also warned against any move to undermine the credibility of the commission. The Federal High Court sitting in Kaduna State has granted bail to former state's governor Nasir El-Rufai over alleged corruption charges filed against him by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, I beg your pardon. The court, however, ordered that the former governor remains in the custody of the anti-graft agency pending the fulfillment of bail conditions. Trial Judge Justice Ruwanu Aikawa delivered the ruling after adjourning the matter from April 1 to April 14, 2026 to consider arguments from both the prosecution and defense. Justice Aikawa admitted El-Rufai to bail in the sum of 200 million naira with two sureties in like sum. Hundreds of Nigerians have been forced to flee their homes, running for safety with no security in sight. This was the reality along major routes in Nasarawa State recently, as witnessed by Global Television's Ubong Usara.
What should have been a routine peaceful journey from Abuja turned into a scene of chaos. Suddenly, hundreds of people running, women clutching children, the elderly struggling to keep pace, not carrying luggage but fear.
Government, please. I think my hands are even paining me. You can see how long this kilometer is. So if you're watching this video, do something about it.
Words filtered through an attack, lives lost, homes touched, entire communities displaced. For nearly 15 kilometers, silence took over. No network, no calls for help, and more alarming, no checkpoints and no security presence.
The entire village is running away. I think this is somewhere in Nasarawa State.
Yet further south, a different picture emerges. Visible checkpoints, active patrols, a sense of control. The question echoes louder. Why the difference? Why are some Nigerians protected, while others are left to flee for their lives? For now, all eyes turn to Governor of Nasarawa State, Abdullahi Sule. What is being done to secure vulnerable communities? Because no Nigerian should have to run to survive. Ubong Usoro, Global TV News.
We appreciate your reporting, Ubong. The Nigerian Police Force has recorded a sweeping crackdown on criminal networks, arresting 50 suspects and recovering a cache of dangerous weapons in a series of coordinated operations across the country. Speaking at a press briefing in Abuja, Force Public Relations Officer DCP Anthony Okon Placid described the achievements as a clear testament to the force's relentless pursuit of justice. Our security correspondent Kekalomo Okeri has details for us.
According to the police operatives of the Force Intelligence Department Intelligence Response Team, have since January dismantled gun running and kidnapping syndicate, seizing 17 rifles, 111 rounds of ammunition, magazines, communication devices, vehicles, and illicit items. 7 major cases were highlighted, reflecting the scale and intensity of ongoing operations against violent crime. In one case, the Force Public Relations Officer DCP Anthony Okon Placid reveals that a suspect linked to arms trafficking was arrested with an FNC rifle, while in Benue State, 4 men posing as police officers were apprehended for staging fake checkpoints to rob unsuspecting victims. Officers recovered weapons and a full police uniform used as disguise, exposing a dangerous trend of impersonation.
Armed robbery syndicate on the 3rd of March 2026 in Benue State. The suspects specialize in mounting fake police checkpoints to rob unsuspecting members of the public. Recovered from them were a locally fabricated rifle, a revolver pistol, live cartridges, and a complete police.
In the Federal Capital Territory, 4 suspects connected to one chance abduction, robbery, and attempted murder were arrested along the Day-Day Kubwa Expressway. Police says the group targeted commuters and extorted victims with recovered items directly linked to their operations. A major breakthrough came in Taraba State, where 3 suspects were arrested in connection with killing of 3 policemen. Meanwhile, a far-reaching operations across Kwara and Kogi states led to the arrest of 33 suspected terrorists and violent criminals tied to a church attack and multiple offenses, including kidnapping, cattle rustling, homicide. Recovered weapons included AK-47 rifle and even an anti-aircraft launcher.
Exhibits recovered from them were linked to their criminal activities, including property belonging to one of their victims, Chisom Ogono.
The police also confirmed additional arrests for illegal firearms possession and car theft operations in Abuja, with investigation ongoing to capture fleeing accomplices, reaffirming the force's commitment to intensify intelligence-driven policing and collaborations with partners to ensure a safer Nigeria. Kike Lomo Okeri, Global TV News.
Many thanks to you, Kike Lomo. You're watching the live broadcast of News Cycle. The rest of the news continues after this weather forecast, plus business, foreign and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please do not go away.
Hello and welcome. Temperatures are running quite high across the northern states, bringing some thermal discomfort. So we encourage everyone there to stay cool and hydrated as the heat continues. Heading to the central region, expect generally sunny skies over there with occasional patches of clouds. However, residents in parts of Plateau, Nasarawa, the Federal Capital Territory, some parts of Niger and Kwara should keep an eye out for possible thunderstorms, which may likely bring some rainfall. While parts of southern Kebbi, Kaduna, some parts of Adamawa might see some isolated cases of light to moderate showers. In the south, the weather is becoming more active. Heavier storms with gusty winds are expected across parts of Cross River, Akwa Ibom, some parts of Bayelsa, Delta, Rivers, extending inland to parts of Oyo, Ondo, some parts of Edo, Imo, and Ogun states. So wherever you are, stay weather aware and plan your day accordingly. Thank you for watching.
Thank you so very much for staying with us. The second part of this news broadcast now returns with business, where the federal government has taken a step towards the rollout of a national food support initiative with the activation of a steering committee to oversee its implementation across the country. The development was disclosed in a statement on the official page of the Federal Ministry of Health. According to the statement, the committee held its inaugural meeting in Abuja as part of efforts to coordinate the National Community Food Bank Program. Speaking at the meeting, Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohammed Pate, urged members to focus on execution, noting that the program must deliver real impact for vulnerable Nigerians. Nigeria's average daily crude production is still below the 1.5 million barrel quota set for the country by the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. OPEC's monthly oil market report released in April indicates that Nigeria's crude production in March was 1.38 million barrels per day, while there was 69,000 barrels per day increase from the 1.31 million barrels per day recorded in February. The figure is still 117,000 barrels per day below the organization's quota. The figures for February indicate a month-on-month decline of 146,000 barrels per day, widening the country's shortfall from its OPEC production allocation. Let's now move to the foreign scene. Benin's Finance Minister, Romuald Wagini, has won the presidency with an overwhelming majority of the votes. The Electoral Commission says Wagini secured more than 94% of the votes based on 90% of ballots counted, which is sufficient for an irreversible outcome. Wagini was the favorite to win after the main opposition party, the Democrats, failed to get their own candidate onto the ballot paper. The finance minister was chosen by the outgoing leader, Patrice Talon, who was barred from running again after 2 terms in office. The Iranian government has estimated the cost of the war launched by the United States and Israel since February at $270 billion. Government spokeswoman Fatemeh Mohajerani says the figure was a preliminary estimate. According to her, the first step in arriving at a more complete figure for reparations would be to evaluate damage to buildings. An ex-student has opened fire at his former high school in Turkey, where school shootings are rare, wounding 16 people, including students, before killing himself. Special security forces were deployed to the school in southeastern Turkey's province, where students were evacuated. Footage showed ambulances standing by outside the school in the Severek district as students fled the building in panic. Now time for some sports. The Director General of the National Sports Commission, Bukola Olakbade, has boosted the morale of Team Nigeria's senior judo squad with a visit to their training camp ahead of the African Senior Judo Championship in Nairobi. During the visit, Olakbade assured the athletes of the federal government's full backing, stressing that the Commission is committed to providing all necessary support for optimal preparation as the team targets a strong outing at the Continental Tournament, which also serves as a pathway to Olympic qualification. Responding, team captain Kehinde Aremu expressed appreciation for the visit, noting that it has further motivated the athletes to represent the country with pride. The championship is scheduled to hold from April 20 to 29 in Nairobi, the capital of Kenya. And back home, Nigeria's under-18 and under-20 male handball teams have received a hero's welcome in Abuja following their dominant performance at the International Handball Federation Trophy Zone 3 tournament in Lomé, Togo. Director General of the National Sports Commission, Bukola Olakbade, described the victory as a major boost for male athletes in the country. Olakbade, who received the teams at the Commission's headquarters, said their success signals renewed progress for handball in Nigeria, calling for increased support from both government and the private sector. He also commended the leadership of the Handball Federation of Nigeria, led by Jibril Saidu, and assured the teams of adequate preparation ahead of upcoming continental championships. Quite inspiring there. And that's a full cycle here on the news. As always, we would like to remind you that we are on DSTV channel 365 and on Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms using @Global TV NG, as well as other handles now showing on your screen. I am Uyi Agmofwegbe. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you again.